Hello everyone, here's the group 4. My name is Silas. Today we're going to talk about the volcano emergency response. And this is my group member. This is our content. We divided our presentation to 4 parts. The first part is set analyze. The second part is habitat analyze. The third part is drought emergency. The last part is the precedent case. Let's talk about set analyze. The volcanic coordinate is 31 degree 33 south point 143 degree 22 east. The postcode of volcano is NSW2838. The area of volcano is 5,445 square kilometers. The province of volcano is New South Wales. Time zone is AEST GMT plus 10. The location is near Darling River. The federal is Central Darling Shire Council. The volcano access and closed city. The volcano main access is Kubi Highway and Barry Highway. We can see right hand side, the volcano in the intersection point of the Kubi Highway and Barry Highway. The volcano located 965 kilometers northwest of the city and 580 kilometers northeast of Adelaide, which is nearly its capital city through the Barry Highway. The volcano also 200 kilometers from Broken Hill and 260 kilometers from Cuba. The volcano has one bus service that's run from the volcano to Broken Hill and Broken Hill to volcano through Monday to Friday. And there are airport located near the volcano, which is 900 kilometers. And let's talk about the volcano infrastructure situation. The volcano have charged community halls, school library, council office, women's center, stream care center, but they not have an elder care center. And they have a hotel, hospital, police station, but they have not have a banking because the only way that people can get money to get cash is they can only go to the post office. And they have a community store, food order, gas station. This look quite complete infrastructure. But they have some problem about living space in Volcania. First National household had an average household size of 3.2 individual, which is one person per bedroom. The population of room that require one more additional bedroom was 20%, which would represent the Volcania's low space per capita, and which lead the COVID-19 hard to control uh, because they have not having enough house for isolation. And this is about the volcanic climate and geographic. We can see the right hand side. In each month, the maximum rainy day is 3, which means the volcano's high hot desert climate. Volcano's average annual rainfall is 264.8 millimeters, but they have big different temperature gap in summer and winter. The general topography of the volcano is average elevation 269, and the topography of the volcano is flat and sand. This is the weather of volcano compared with Sydney. We can see the rainfall. The Sydney is 6 times larger than volcano in each month. Let's talk about the climate condition. During the 2013 to 2019, the volcano suffered a drought, which caused flooding, lack of food, arable land is destroyed, economic backwardness, and poverty. During the 2021 to 2022, the volcano suffered flood, which caused the building damage, road congestion, food delivery problem, and economic problem. They have some plant and animals I want to introduce. The first one is one plant, a normal name called Red River Gym. The local name called Pamara. They can use for ceremony, food, medical, and tools. And also they have an animal called Mary Darling rainbow fish. They can use for general restrict to backwaters and slow flowing areas throughout the basin. That's all. Let's move on to the next.
Well, thanks for Yuqi's presentation. I will introduce the part of inhabitants analysis. In the latest census 2016, the total population of Volcania was 745, with Aborigines and Torres Strait Islanders accounting for 74.1%. The population of women is slightly higher than that of men. Bakchin people are the ancestors of this land. In a video, Bakchin people said, "The Baka, we cut the water through the Bakchin people, our blood, which runs through us, and if we haven't got that water, our people, it's going to kill us," showing the importance of Darling River to him. Then there is a history of Darling River. In the 1840s, Heathen first settled in the Volcania region. The town of Volcania was proclaimed in June 1866. From the 1970s to the 1990s, Volcania has become the third largest inland port in Australia, and the main port on the Darling River. It's an important transportation hub. The peak period of Volcania was from 1890 to 1990, when animals husbandry and water trade flourished. In addition, in the 1890s, the discovery of the soft gold, such as apple or fields, promoted the growth of local development again. However, the drought in the recent years since 1900 broke the prosperity at that time. Negatively impacting animal husbandry due to the river water level dropped sharply. The riverboat trade also decreased. Volcano has lost its status as a commercial center. In terms of the culture of Bakchin, they pay attention to the connection between spirituality and nature. As they say, we don't have a boundary like Venus. We have a spiritual connection. Indigenous people are eager to persuade the spiritual connection between people, the earth, rivers, and other animals, and to use the connection to better survive. According to relevant literature, the local Aboriginal river culture gradually disappeared. White persons believe that the Aborigines they lived with have no Aboriginal culture. However, the culture of the more remote and pure indigenous people is not recognized. Here is another speech from a local people. We have cultures on this river that have been here for thousands and thousands of years. Cultures that have been obliterated by government decision and mismanagement. The policy is to decommission the Melinda Lakes. The plan led to a region draft. The decline in the health of the rivers and lakes dealt a heavy blow to the Bakchin people. Darling River farmers hope for an embargo on flows to receive the dry river. Mr. Blair said, "We don't think it's necessary to implement the embargo now, because we haven't launched and ran an emergency short-term solution in the broken shell." The state government is spending up to $5 million to ensure water supply. In 2019, the lakes and lake system in the upper reaches of the Darling River has been restored to a constant extent. This chart shows the local education level among the people aged 50 and over in Volcania. 10.5% have complete level 3 or level 4 certificate, and 6% have complete an advanced diploma or diploma. According to the employment chart, 241 people are in the labor force. Among them, 66.4% are full-time employees, 70.8% are part-time employed, and 11.2% are unemployed. Well, I will hand it over to Qingyu. Thank you.
The indigenous culture of Vulcania has influenced every aspect of their lives, and as a result, there are a number of interesting things that have arisen. The first is Vulcania Cemetery, a cemetery with hundreds of unmarked graves that tell the story of the hardships and itinerant nature of early Vulcania indigenous people. The second is a hip-hop group called the Vulcania Boys, and this group made up of 5 indigenous Australians from Vulcania. Interestingly, at time, the youngest member was 9 years old and the oldest was 14. They were accompanied by traditional indigenous instruments. The simple thing they sung showed the Aboriginal way of life, about using what was in the river and being part of their lives, and this group brought a positive image to Vulcania. The third is a pop instrument called the didgeridoo. Today it is popular among the indigenous communities of Vulcania. The Aboriginal people see this instrument as part of their entire material culture. They use it to accompany songs and dances for cultural ceremonies. Traditionally, however, only men play the didgeridoo in ceremony, and women are discouraged from playing it in Aboriginal communities. So, based on the previous analysis, we can summarize the various difficulties that arise in the indigenous communities of Vulcania, such as education rate, unemployment, poverty, health problem, COVID-19, and so on. However, these difficulties interact with each other and make it impossible for the indigenous people to live a good life. Therefore, we choose to focus on one aspect of the problem for our analysis.
Hello, this is Li Zijun. Now let's take a look at the Vulcania emergency, divided into 3 sections: drought in Vulcania, organisms affected, and COVID-19. Vulcania is typical of many remote and rural towns in Australia, as it is plagued by several drought, high temperatures, and low rainfall patterns. The region is also affected by water conflicts and mismanagement, with Thirsty Cotton Farm upstream disrupting water flows. This was mentioned earlier. According to Backhouse, climate change has significantly worsened seasonal fluctuations and weather patterns in Vulcania, and projections for future climate are that these conditions are likely to persist. During the 2013 to 2019 drought, the middle and upper reaches of the Darling River in Vulcania experienced intermittent increase in flow compared to historical droughts, as shown on the left. However, from his historical drought to contemporary drought, zero flow increased from 15% to 21 to 23%, as shown again, where it can be seen that flow below 500 are the majority and a larger number of data converge to zero. According to Mellon Cooper's study of historical flows in Darling River, rainfall deficit, climate change, and anthropogenic factors have led to reduced inflows, such as flow capture and diversions from source dam and town water supplies. In February 2020, the Darling River flowed through Vulcania again due to heavy rainfall in North New South Wales and Queensland, and the dry riverbed was once again filled with water. After this starting river, storage was projected by the local council to flow to provide 12 months of drinking water. However, in July of this year, during the weather, some section of the Darling River in Volcania had dried up completely. However, what exactly are the effects of drought on humans? According to Stang's research, droughts can mainly lead to water shortage, higher food prices, migration, and lifestyle effects, which can then indirectly lead to increased mobility and mortality among the population, such as effects on mental health that can lead to increased suicide rate and water-related and dust-related disease that can accompany them. And this issue has been a wake-up call for us as early as the biological world. Studies of the red kanga population were conducted during the drought that began in September 1963 in the habitat of Volcania. An early effect of the drought was a late mortality of kangaroo rates. 2 years after the drought began, only about 30% for female carried brood pouches. The change in climate affected the physiological characteristics and normal reproductive breeding cycle of kangaroos, and the failure to reproduce effectively during the drought eventually resulted in no red kangaroo more than 2 years old in Volcania population. The most recently issue regarding health is the loss of control of COVID-19 in Volcania. This can't help but make us reflect on the lives and crises of the indigenous population once again. Overcrowded house, poor living conditions, and lack of management all contributed to the outbreak of this problem, even with the involvement of drought. Based on the previous knowledge of Volcania and the analysis of the drought, we can see that the most central problem of the indigenous people of Volcania manifest themselves in the impairment of the body functions, both physical and psychological, and that these problems are mainly brought about by the climate and the living conditions, which finally lead to new health problems such as COVID-19. Fortunately, before Delta, the epidemic have been controlled through system management, and 0 cases were achieved last October. Well, the vaccination of Volcania was in order.
Next is social aid. A number of organizations and agencies have helped indigenous people in times of hardship in Volcania, including Food Bank New South Wales, Eddie Road, Australian Association of Social Workers, and Army Aboriginal Community Assistance Program, and Australian Defence Force personnel, and so on. Foodbank is Australia's largest food relief organisation, providing essential supplies and food to Volcania during the pandemic. The Australia Association of Social Workers was deployed to Volcania to help boost the indigenous vaccinations to contain the growing epidemic. Next, I will show 2 case studies. The first is Volcania weir replacement, and the second is the source of life. The Volcania Weir is located on the bank of Darling River in Volcania and was built in 1942 to provide water for the town. In addition, the weir is the main source of water supply for the town. Currently, the weir is in declining condition and function. As a result, there is a huge threat to the town's water supply. After the Darling River dried out, the Aboriginal people started using emergency borehole water, but the quality of the water is poor and it has a huge impact on their health. As a result, the New South Wales and the federal governments decided to replace the weir. In the early stages of problem, the series of environmentally and culturally important studies were required as there are many special places along the river, including canea trees that are culturally important to the indigenous people, and to work with Wilcannia traditional owners and community representatives. Therefore, the government decided to build a new weir 5 kilometers away from the original weir, but it will operate differently. The new weir has gates that can be closed and opened depending on the volume of water flowing down the river system and the main water patterns. And the role and the role of gates and the fishway is to allow fish species to travel for migration and the general life cycle. When there is a drought mode is triggered and the fishway and the gates close, storing water for the town to survive the drought. When it rains, gates and the fishway will be open to ensure the river does not stand still, which helps keep the river health. The new weir will provide a long-term water supply for the town and bring social, economic, and environmental benefits to indigenous peoples. The project will now enter the construction phase by the end of 2022 once it is approved. The second project is a water harvesting project. Based on the principle of land area roots and using renewable resources, the project uses local bamboo as a base and the recyclable membrane as an internal condensation device. As the air passes through the device, water enters at the same time. The water is then evaporated and condensed by solar heat and surface temperature to obtain clean water. This product is simple, easy to build and maintain, and can effectively alleviate through and water shortage in remote areas. Our presentation is over. These are references. Thank you for your watching.